"Don't run," he said. "He likes that." His mouth was wet and he smelled like nickel. He grabbed my sleeve once, hard, and then he went soft on the bench and slid down, eyes open and empty. That was behind the bus station in Haverly. It was late. I had a torn backpack, a cheap phone, a small knife, and a flashlight. I had left home 2 days before. I didn't have a plan. I didn't want to go back. I thought a bus south would put miles between me and trouble. I bought a ticket to Miller's Ferry. The lady at the window said it was a straight shot. I sat near the back. A guy with a red ball cap snored. A kid cracked sunflower seeds into a cup. When we pulled out, I watched the dark glass and saw my own face and then another face, just behind my shoulder in the reflection. A man, closer than he should have been. I turned and nobody was there. I told myself it was the glass. We got to a small stop in the middle of nowhere. The driver said, "Stretch your legs." I got off and smoked behind the snack machine. That's when I saw him for real. Across the lot, through the chain link, a man in a gray jacket stood still. He didn't blink much. His eyes burned. I don't have a better way to say it. They didn't glow like a toy. They burned like there was heat there. He looked at me and the air felt warm on my face. He raised his hand like he knew me. I got back on fast and moved seats. I went 2 rows up. When we pulled into Miller's Ferry, the sign said Colebrook. I stood in the aisle and said to the driver, "Hey, this isn't right." He shrugged and said dispatch changed the route. He used my name when he said it, like we knew each other. "Sorry, Mason," he said. I hadn't told him my name. I didn't correct him. I got off with the 3 other people. I looked around for the man in gray. I didn't see him. I walked 3 blocks to a church with a hand-painted sign for a night shelter. I gave a fake last name. The lady at the table wrote it down in a big blue book, date and time. She pointed at a cot and slid me a plastic bin. "Be out by 7, she said. In the shower, I tried to forget the man. I kept touching my sleeve where the dead guy had grabbed me. Sometimes I live by things people say to me. "Don't run," the old guy said, and I heard it over and over. I woke up at 3 to a whiny sound. One of the guys had sleep apnea. I rolled over and saw a face in the small window of the exit door. The glass was wired, hard to see, but there he was. Same gray jacket. Same eyes. They made a faint orange line on the glass. He was 5 feet away and looking in. I whispered, "No," without meaning to. He touched the glass with 2 fingers and the glass made a soft click, like it cooled after a burn. I sat up. A staff guy walked past with a flashlight. The door window was empty like I imagined it. I lay back down and stared at the ceiling until morning. At breakfast, with watery coffee, I signed out. I looked at the book. In the line for last night, my name was there. Messy, my fake last name too. Next to it, in a different pen, someone had written a note. "Keep him away from the man with the burning eyes." It was dated last winter, months before I ran. I pointed at it and the lady waved me off. "Old notes," she said. "We reuse pages sometimes." I ran my finger over the date. It was the same date stamp as the other entries, not photocopied. My stomach went tight. I didn't argue. I put the bin back and went out. I walked to a payphone near the bus station. My phone was low and I didn't want to use it yet. I called my brother's number from memory. It rang and then a woman answered on the second ring, not his girlfriend, not anybody I knew. She said my name like she was checking a list, then hung up. I put in more coins and tried again. This time it didn't ring. I heard our old house phone message from 4 years ago. My mom's voice saying, "Leave a message. We screen our calls." She'd been dead 2 years. I held the receiver out and listened to nothing until the dial tone bit my ear. I hung up, I bought a ticket to Dutton because the map said it was farther. The clerk slid it under the glass. My phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I didn't know. Don't run. No other words. I stared until the bus hissed and I got on. At a gas station stop, I asked a clerk if there was a pay-at-the-pump card load. He stared at me too long. "You're the kid from last fall," he said. "The one with the guy that can't blink." He said it like he was bored. "I wasn't there last fall." "No," I said. "That wasn't me." He looked past me. "Okay then." He rang up the chips. When he put my change in my hand, his fingers were very cold. When the bus pulled into Dutton, it made a loop and went back out on the same highway. The driver said Dutton was closed for a parade. I hit the stop cord anyway. He didn't stop. "Next one," he said. The kid with the sunflower seeds laughed. I moved to the front, and the driver looked at me with somebody else's face for a second. I don't know how to explain it. You know when you think you see someone you know in a crowd and then it's not? It was like that, except it was like he was me, tired and small and stuck. I sat back down and didn't pull the cord again. We got to Saxon Ridge, and it was raining hard. I ran from the bus to a diner and asked if I could sit without buying much. The waitress with the wrist tattoos said sure. She brought me coffee and a plate with 2 pancakes she said were extra. I believed that. People do that sometimes. In about 5 minutes, a man came in and sat 2 stools down. He didn't take off his hood. I knew it was him before I saw his eyes. You know how you know when someone isn't a stranger anymore? He looked at me and then at the coffee machine. The steam made his eyes haze around the edges. He didn't order. The waitress said, "You okay, buddy?" He didn't answer. I counted to 10 slow and got up and walked to the bathroom. I locked the door. The music in the diner was old. The fan ticked. I waited. I tried to call the shelter in Saxon Ridge to ask if there were beds. The recording said the number was out of service. Then someone picked up and said, "Come around back." The line went dead. I wiped my face and went out, and the stool was empty. The back door to the alley was half propped with a crate. I went out that way. The alley had only one way out that didn't go back into the diner. I went toward the street. The air got warmer. I could see my breath until it didn't show anymore, like the temperature changed 5 steps at a time. I looked left and right. Cars went by slow in the rain. He wasn't there. I crossed the street and went up 3 blocks to the church. The recording meant, if the recording was real. The back door was held shut with a loop of chain and a padlock. I knocked anyway. A man opened it from the inside like the chain wasn't there. He was big, beard, flannel shirt with a name tag that said BN. He looked me up and down. "We got 1 cot," he said. He took me to a small room with metal racks and blankets. He slid a clipboard at me. "Name." I wrote the fake one. He turned the page to show me rules. There on the other side, in a log from last year, my name was there in my own handwriting. I don't mean it looked like mine. It was mine. I had that lazy E, the line through the F. I stared. Ben watched my face. "You been here," he said. He said it like he didn't want to know. I shook my head. Must be another guy. He put the clipboard down. "Funny," he said. He told me about the eyes, too. He looked past me to the hallway and shivered. "Keep your door shut." I closed the door and jammed the chair under the knob. I lay down with my shoes on. I put the knife and the phone in my jacket pocket. The rain softened to a patter. I slept like you sleep when you don't mean to. I woke up to a heat on my face. I thought the building had turned the heat on. It was summer. Then I saw light moving under the door, glowing at the crack like a thin line. It went left to right, slow, like someone paced. I sat up. My mouth went dry. Ben knocked hard. "You okay?" he said. I said, "Yeah." He said, "Don't open the door." His voice shook. I held the knife and looked at the chair and the knob and the small bolt. The line of light paused under the door, right in the middle, like it looked at me. It made a small sizzling sound. I scooted back on the cot. At 5 a.m., I couldn't take it. I sent a message to a kid I knew from a summer job. "Can you pick me up?" I added the town. 20 minutes later, I got a ping that said delivered 3 days ago. Then another that said not delivered. Then a reply from a different number that said out back. The sun came up gray. I went to the window and cracked the blind. The alley behind the church was empty except for milk crates and a wet cat. There were prints on the concrete. Bare feet. Each print had a dark spot in the middle, like heat had dried the water faster. I packed my stuff and opened the door. The hallway was cold. The light switches didn't work. Ben was gone. The sign and clipboard was on the floor like someone dropped it. I didn't see anyone. I went out the back, to the street, to the main road. I kept my head down. I had a plan. I would go to the county bus hub. I would not buy a ticket at the window. I would pay cash on the bus. I would get off early and switch. Cause and effect. I would change something and the world would have to listen. At the hub, the clock said 9:20. My phone said 8:01. The route map in the glass had names I knew and names I didn't. I kept my eyes on the pavement and counted bus bays. I got on a bus that said west. I paid cash. The driver didn't look at my face. We went 3 stops. At the 3rd stop, the driver announced Coldbrook Transfer, the place I started, like the day folded in half and handed itself back to me. I stood up. A hand rested on the pole near my seat. It was a normal hand, except the skin was pink, like it had been under a heat lamp too long. I looked along the arm. He was in the row behind me, head low, face turned to the window. I could see the side of his face. The ear looked smooth and strange. He turned and looked at me, and his eyes burned. No lids, no blink. I smelled something like hot dust and pennies. He smiled without teeth. He didn't open his mouth. He stood when I did. I made for the back door. It hissed and didn't open. The driver yelled, "Front exit!" I pushed through people. He didn't push. He moved and people moved without seeing him. I hit the street and ran. I know what the dying guy said. I ran anyway. My feet slapped water. I cut left, right, through a door marked exit into a department store that used to be a bank. I should have been in ladies' shoes. I came out into a stairwell with concrete and a metal railing. I went down 3 flights. The door at the bottom said NO exit and had a fire bar. I pushed the bar and the alarm didn't sound and the door opened onto a parking garage with only 2 cars, both with dust. I went to the far side. It was open to the air. It looked out on an alley and the back of a restaurant. I could jump. It was too far. I looked back. The door I'd come through stood half open. He came through it slow, like he had all day. He walked like a normal man, but the air near him shook a little, heat waves you see above a grill. He stopped 10 feet away. "Hey," I said, like an idiot. My voice cracked. "What do you want?" He tilted his head. He had a voice, low and dry, like paper rubbing glass. "You ran," he said. It sounded like a fact. "You like that?" I said. He blinked, not with eyelids. The light in his eyes dimmed and burned again. "You left early," he said. I didn't know what he meant. Maybe he did. I pulled the knife. It looked small. He stepped closer. The air on my face got hot, like I leaned into an oven. The knife handle warmed in my hand. I held it out and said, "Back up." He stepped again. He could grab me in one more. I had the railing behind me. I'd be stuck. "Don't," I said. My eyes watered from the heat. My sleeves felt tight. He reached and his fingers closed on my jacket at the chest. The cloth smoked where he touched. It didn't catch. It just browned. He pulled me a little, just to feel the give. I stabbed at his forearm. The blade touched him and made a sound like a hair touching a candle. The steel went dull at the point. He didn't flinch. He looked at my face like he was measuring something. I did what I shouldn't have. I looked over his shoulder for help. Nobody was there. It was just us and the old cars and the rattling light fixture. He said, "Come on," and pulled. My shoes slid. The railing bit into the back of my leg. I smelled my jacket. The alarm bar door behind him swung shut an inch, and then opened again, and then swung wide like it changed its mind. He looked back at it. One blink of light, new, and in that half second the door slammed, hard. The latch caught, the kind that needs a key from the garage side, the kind you can't open without the bar. The sound cracked like a hand hitting a wall. He jerked like someone tugged him. His grip shifted. He looked at the door, then at me. He didn't let go. He pulled again and the door made a metal squeal, like it tried to open and couldn't. He breathed out, and the breath was hot enough to sting my face. He let go and hit the door bar with his shoulder. It didn't budge. He tried again. The bar didn't give. The little window in the door went brown around the edge where his eyes were. The smell was worse than anything. He turned and took a step toward me, and then the ceiling sprinkler over the door coughed once and dumped a sheet of water, just from that head, not the others. It hit him and made white steam, so fast the sound covered everything for a second. He raised his hands to his eyes and made a sound, not loud, just a scrape. The steam was between us. I bolted along the wall and around the pillar and down the ramp to the lower level. My shoes slid and I hit my shoulder on a mirror. Glass tinkled. I found the exit sign and shoved the bar, and it opened on a stair to the street. I didn't stop until Main Street. I leaned over with my hands on my knees and waited to puke, but nothing came. People walked by, normal, holding coffees and talking like the day was the same as any other. My jacket had a brown spot the size of a hand over my chest. I touched it, and it was stiff and warm. I checked my phone. The time was nothing I trusted. I turned it off. I took the next bus to anywhere. The driver didn't look at me. The seats smelled like old smoke. I stayed on for too long. I watched the window the whole ride. He didn't show. When the bus got to a town with a name I didn't recognize, I got off. I went to a laundromat and sat in a plastic chair. A dryer knocked a coin around and around. I stared at the glass door, the round metal face. I thought about the door in the garage slamming at the exact second I needed it, and the sprinkler that chose that 1 second to go off. Only there, only above him. I didn't know if that was luck or if it was the same thing that kept putting me in the wrong town and connecting me to wrong voices and writing my name where I hadn't been. I didn't know why it helped me then. When I finally slept, sitting up in the chair, I dreamed about nothing. When I woke up, the sun was down. The machines were quiet. I stood and my shirt pulled funny against the burned spot. In the reflection of the glass door, I could still see a small brown circle, the size of an eye, fading slow. I hope you liked this one, and if you did, prove it. Hit that like button, subscribe, and make sure you come back for more. It takes a second, and it really keeps this channel breathing. There's another story waiting, You should probably watch it before the lights flicker again. See you in the next one.